The India-Canada relationship has been under strain for almost a year now. And in the recent development, the Canadians expelled 6 Indian diplomats, saying that there is evidence that they have found against them for threatening of public safety in Canada. Now, we have with us Mr. Kushal Mehra, who has been writing about the Sikh separatism issue in Canada, about the Indians, about the Hindu community living there. He has, in fact, done recently an excellent article for ThePrint as well, explaining about the Indian-Canada relationship and what India needs to do further and what Canada needs to do further, probably to strengthen this relationship. So we'll be talking to him about this. What is the way ahead? What is the problem? And what gives the Sikh separatist force this immunity in Canada, and how has it become so powerful? Thank you for taking out time to speak to us, Mr. Mehra, from your busy schedule. And without taking much time, I'll just ask you about this significant force that has come up in Canada. I mean, we've been hearing about it, but of late, from the last 1 year, we've been hearing so much about the Khalistani force, the Sikh separatism force, disrupting events in Canada. There have been several protests outside the High Commission. Uh, in fact, in your article, you have mentioned several of these incidents where a lot of these Khalistani supporters have come and threatened public in general. If you could tell us a little bit more about, since you're in Canada, as to what gives them this power, this immunity, this force to operate uh, in Canada, and what about its domestic politics?
Namaste, thanks for having me over. So, see, the Canadian system has to be understood in detail. The Canadian system overall works there are many similar overlapping traits as far as India's Canada is concerned. But where the Khalistanis are very important as of now is that in a society where you don't have that great a voting percentage, let me just put it that way. So certain constituencies, which they call ridings over here, where the Hindu and Sikh communities live side by side in many cases, honestly, these ridings become very important. And over the last, I would say, especially over the last 2.5 decades, I mean, the Khalistani infiltration of the Canadian system is since the 80s. It's not that it did not exist, but over the last 2.5 decades, the Khalistani infiltration of the Canadian system has been very well oiled, very systematic, and it has pretty much taken over the entire Canadian political system as far as the discourse related to India is concerned. And not just the discourse related to India is concerned, now it is honestly seriously infiltrating the overall policy making landscape of Canada too. And the reason they are so important is because, like I said, it's at the end of the day, it is directly proportional to the vote of of the Khalistanis, and in some ways they have convinced, especially the Liberals and the National Democratic Party alliance, that they are the most important vote bloc. I'm not giving the Conservatives a free run because, in fact, in my article in the print, I did share 3 conservative leaders who are very much part of this nexus of convenience, is as far as I'm concerned. But especially in the Liberal and NDP, and why they control it has to be understood from the rigging of the primaries in Canada. Unlike in India, where we don't have primaries when we hold
Right.
elections over there, but in Canada they do hold primaries, and the Liberal Party, especially, and the Khalistanis have in ridings where there is a potential candidate of Indian origin that is going to stand up. The Khalistanis have rigged it completely. And as I had shown, and this has been confirmed by none other than the current Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, that anybody can vote in a Canadian primary for the Liberals and the NDP. Not the case of the Conservatives. In the Conservatives, you have to either be a landed immigrant, that is the permanent resident of Canada. But in the case of the Liberals, you could be visiting Canada on a tourist visa, and there might be a primary in a riding, and you can just conveniently register yourself there. Nobody's going to check, and you can go and rig the primary. So what happens is, whenever there are leaders of Indian origin that come up the ranks in Canadian society, whether at the federal level, at the provincial level, or at the municipal level, as far as representation in public life is concerned, they end up being Khalistani because they were propped up through the press. See, it's not like every election that a Khalistani candidate fights is going to be won by them, but every time they win, the probabilities of that person being a Khalistani, especially in the Liberal and NDTP, is more than 95%. So when they are in the system, like as of now, you can go, you can go to the website of the World Sikh Organization for that matter. They have listed the number of Sikh origin MPs in the Liberal NDP and the Conservative Party, and just do a candid search on their commentary on issues of India and Canada, and you will understand what is happening here. And and that's how they have a disproportionate influence on Canadian society. That is one part. You rig the primaries and you make sure that the people who go into the House of Commons or wherever, their version of the Lok Sabha, they make sure whosoever is going to go there, it's going to be a person who is Khalistani or Khalistani adjacent. People who rise up against them. Like I remember there was the case of Ramesh Sangha, and the CBC had even reported this in detail, how he had been threatened viciously in and around the Greater Toronto region till the extent that he could just not have a normal life anymore. So if somebody does come into the political system that tries to oppose them, the amount of pushback, like look at the life of Chandra Arya over here now, because he talks about it. There's not even a single event where he cannot go without police cover. He just cannot. I was a co-speaker with him just recently, and just there were police all around. And then in the other event where I was there in Calgary, there were cops there, and there were Khalistanis outside. Now, in such a scenario, you know, every time I listen to this rhetoric in India, but there is no Khalistan in Punjab. Yeah, even I know I'm Punjabi origin myself, even though I'm born in, Mumbai. I have family in Punjab. I know Khalistan does not exist in Punjab. And, the random sentiments are just, statistically insignificant.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist in Canada. And there are Indian passport holders in Canada. And just to, brush it off as if, oh, ki farak penda hai kind of a situation, there are just 10,000 active Khalistanis. No, there are 10,000 active Khalistanis who, with the potential of doing violent acts over here.
Hmm.
There are more than that, at least 100,000 to 150,000. I think
Right.
Sanjay Verma ji was spot on when he said, and I'm glad the Indian High Commissioner has said what he has said now. And what I wonder is, मतलब इतना खराब होना पड़ा relation for Sanjay Verma ji to come out. This should have been told to the people of India at least 10 to 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And everyone who tries to
Hmm.
speak against it, I can give you names after names. Tara Singh Hair, they shot him. They killed Tara Singh Hair. Balraj Dale, physically, brutally attacked. Ujjal Dosanjh, the former premier of British Columbia, the print has interviewed Ujjal Saab,
Yeah.
brutally attacked. Then recently there was, the guy did not even use the name Khalistan in his, thing. All he talked about was extortion rackets going on, being done by people of our own community. He did not even name the community. He just said, "Sade log ki kar dene." That's all he said in Punjabi. Our people are doing it. He
Hmm.
got attacked. Rishi Nagar, just recently. I think a couple of years ago, I forgot the name. Nandaji, yeah, Nanda. I don't remember the name exactly. He got attacked. So, it is a very interesting thing what they do. So if the journalist or the social commentator is of Indian origin or is brown, so they believe the chitral can happen to them because they're brown. So the working assumption is that we can physically intimidate these people because the Canadians will not care. That because the Canadians will look at it as brown and brown fighting. But there were brave journalists who have talked about Khalistan, Terry Milevsky, Kim Bolan. Notice how Kim Bolan does not utter a word now. Has anybody noticed that? Since the last few years, Kim Bolan has completely stopped covering the Khalistan beat for the Vancouver Sun. You should ask yourself, why did Kim Bolan stop? Was there a lawsuit? Did something happen? Was that one of the conditions? These questions need to be asked. I wonder why the Indian media does not ask all these questions. Terry still keeps talking at grave personal risk, but they have a very clear strategy. If it is a white guy or a white woman, ज्यादा physical attacks नहीं करेंगे, मगर lawsuit से threaten करेंगे. Then there was Douglas Todd who used to cover the beat. आप जाके check करो. Vancouver Sun के लिए शायद Douglas Todd ने भी लिखा है. Terry Glavin will write on and off about this. Jonathan K, I remember, had done a podcast with Balraj Deol once. But everybody and anybody who tries to raise this issue is subject to intimidation. Or now there is a brave Canadian journalist from the National Telegraph, Daniel Boardman. Daniel has tried to talk about it. Same intimidation. It is a clear cut tactic because it is, and this is why they have such a disproportionate influence. Let's assume somebody in the community says, some Gurdwara leader or some temple leader say, "Tusi Khalistani ho to edro chale jao." In my article, I shared one such
Yeah,
incident in San Jose.
yeah,
What
yeah.
happened to that gentleman? They took a mugshot and look at the Hindu phobia. जानबूझ के मत्थे पे हिंदुओं का टिक्का लगाया गया है. Notice the messagery and the Hindu hatred, messaging and the Hindu hatred. जानबूझ के टिकट लगाते. See, if you're Punjabi, you know when the slur, the caste slurs in Punjabi that is there in Jat hip hop. I don't say Punjabi hip hop. I say Jat hip hop because there are other kinds of Punjabi hip hop that are amazing. you know there are amazing hip hop songs in our culture. This is a specific, oh bamna, oh bamni. I remember what they used to call Indira Gandhi, oh bamni nu vekh leange. These things are, and the bigotry, the casteism, the brutality, the threats are always done in Punjabi or Hindi
Hmm.
because they know gore nu samajh nahi paina. They say these things, gore nu ki samajh paina Punjabi chi bolde pe ne. It is because they know, oh, मेहरे ने तो समझ पा जाएगी, मेहरा तो पंजाबी है, he will read it, he will understand it. गुरमुखी तो नहीं पढ़ सकता मगर सुन तो सकता हूं ना पंजाबी.
Right.
So these are the reasons why they have such a disproportionate share. And if you go to a politician and you complain, they do what in India we have a running meme. They do kadi ninda. Abhi to kadi ninda bhi nahi karte. Notice in the last 3 years, the coalition of Hindus of North America has systematically documented with evidence desecration of Hindu temples. Overwhelming desecration incidents are by graffitiing and writing threatening and menacing messages outside our temples here of Hindu
But
Canadian.
I would just interrupt you a little bit. When you say that it's a well-oiled machinery, what do you exactly mean by that? And again, I would ask you this question: what makes them so brazen? Where are they drawing their power from? Because it's is there no pressure ahead of the elections for Mr. Trudeau also? Because despite being millions of Hindus who are living in that country as well, and there are also a population like you yourself said, the Sikhs who are opposed to this idea of Khalistan. How is the system working so well? I mean, so many incidents that we hear of, and how you are
Very good
explaining
question.
it. I mean, it's amazing. How does it work, and where are they drawing their power from?
So I explained the political class that goes inside, right?
Yeah.
So think like a white person does. See, if you have lived outside India, you will understand white people have no idea about our culture. I don't blame them. Let's be very clear. If I was living in India, I don't know anything about what the Toronto Maple Leafs are, or local Canadian. Why do Canadians say a? I would not know these things until and unless I've moved here. I would
Hmm.
not know the Canadian sensibilities. I don't expect them to know the Indian sensibilities. What would be a majority white country ka white man's reaction when he goes through the situation? Where's the brown guy? They go to the brown guy. The brown guy is always Khalistani. Now, it is not just the politicians. Try and understand. Kudos to the Khalistanis. See, I even while I oppose them, I can admire their dedicated workmanship. They generate our version of lamp fellows over here. They're called interns that go and work with political parties, offices, and everything. They handle PR, they handle everything that is related to a political outfit, community
Okay.
outreach programs, and stuff like that. Every time a letter comes that opposes them, just ask yourself, right? How is it leaked in 1 hour? I mean, एक घंटे में कैसे लीक हो जाता है कनाडा में? कोई भी पार्टी के अंदर खालिस्तान से रिलेटेड लेटर 1 घंटे में लीक हो जाता है everywhere in Canada. And I know it sounds so conspiratorial because I'm an atheist, but damn, I have lived here to understand how well they do. So your interns that are sitting in all these places, right? They're Khalistanis. And listen, people keep, why Indians की सबसे बड़ी problem है ना, Indians are obsessed with first generation Indians because 70% of diaspora is first generation Indians. Do you think the Khalistanis have radicalized the first generation? It's the second and third generation where the maximum level of radicalization is. Those are your interns that speak like a Canadian. They don't have an Indian accent. Does Jagmeet Singh have an Indian accent? Jagmeet Singh is as Canadian as it gets. Boli mein.
Hmm.
So then there are, like I say, there are mini Jagneets everywhere, second and third generation Canadians as interns, as journalists who ask leading questions. I mean, just look at the recent Hogue inquiry, where the questions, or the RCMP press briefer, look at the questions being asked
by, alleged Sikh Canadians who are Khalistanis, or media outlets run by Khalistanis, asking questions like the classic case where, there was a question asked to RCMP. Oh, so you're saying
when you mean the South Asian diaspora, you mean the Indian government is attacking the Sikh Canadians, right? And the RCMP, hashtag sad life kar diya unhone unka. No, 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 just the Khalistanis. The RCMP clarified, but ask yourself, how was that person right out there inside the press conference asking all the leading questions that are supposed to be from a Khalistani bent? This is what I mean when a well-oiled machinery works. The public representative, Khalistani. The intern, Khalistani. The journalist, Khalistani. Now, a follow-up you should ask me, and I'll give you the follow-up is then why aren't the other community members doing the same thing?
Yeah.
That's the follow-up you should have asked me. And the answer for that is, you may not like it, they're pathetic. They're selfish. They're pathetic. They don't invest. What is the Indian dream of immigration? I'm an engineer. I'm a doctor. I'm going to go there. I'm going to make money. They didn't invest in social sciences. Are there Hindu lawyers? Yes, but they don't care. I'm not going to name the politician or the organizations, but I know when certain Khalistani organizations sued some people when they criticized Khalistanis, not even a single Hindu lawyer or Indian lawyer stood up for them.
So you're basically accusing the Hindu community to not, that they're not
Yeah,
close
they're
enough.
pathetic. They're pathetic. I mean, have you not heard me on social media? They're pathetic. I mean, I don't even hide it. My disdain for the Hindu leadership over here for being spineless and pathetic is quite well known. I mean, I don't care. What if I told you I know this story for real? Okay. I'm not going to disclose my sources like any good person who does public speaking. So there's this, and I'll tell you the province where this happened. It happened in British Columbia. I know it for a fact because I corroborated by other people who were in the meeting. So this primary candidate, he was a white guy, by the way, goes with community members to a mandir in British Columbia. He goes and tells the temple trustees, all Hindus, by the way, that, you know what? I'm not going to go where the yellow flags are. That was the line he used. Okay. I'm not going to go where the yellow flags are. So please support me. He outreached to the Hindu trustees. Guess what the trustees did? They went with the Khalistani candidate. Now tell me, what am I supposed to do? It
Was that under
sounds
pressure because they are scared?
exactly because the see this now you have to connect the graffitiing. When you go out to the mandir and you start, they protest outside the mandir. There have been documented cases. Again, Kona has documented this.
Yeah.
You're protesting outside the mandir. And then when you go in the mandir, right, you're intimidated. As like, यार मैं भगवान के दर्शन करने आया हूँ कि मैं ये ड्रामे देखने आया हूँ. For example, in my talk in Calgary, some of the volunteers, poor volunteers, they told me, one of them came to me and said in Hindi, भैया ये लोग बाहर है ना गाड़ियों के वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग कर रहे थे नंबर की एंड आई वुड नॉट हैव बिलीव्ड मुझे लगा झूठ बोल रहे हैं एग्जैजरेट कर रहे हैं ट्रस्ट मी आई थॉट एग्जैजरेट कर रहे हैं until Bezirgan Mocha Bezirgan recorded the Khalistani recording his own nameplate of his car. Tell me, what is an average Hindu supposed to do over here? It sounds so conspiratorial. 3 years ago, I used to laugh these things off. 3 years ago, before I came here and started living here. And then I was like, oh my God, they actually do each and everything. Let's say you're a doctor over here. Don't believe a word I say. Cross verify everything I'm saying before you put all of this up. Let's say you're a doctor who say, I don't support Khalistan. They will mass report that doctor. Start giving bad reviews systematically. Yeah, how many people are going to fight? How many? Until and unless the average Canadian, which is the majority population over here of non-brown origin, they get fed up. This is not going to stop because the Hindu community has been intimidated to submission over here. And yes, they are spineless because even when I speak, I know I'm speaking on my own terms because पता नहीं मेरा ही screw ढीला होगा मुझे नहीं मालूम. I mean, I just say it because I'm not scared because they don't intimidate me. But the point is that this is a regular thing.
You have to go through the entire history. So always remember the politicians, the interns, the media plants. Then just recently, this whole RCMP inquiry shagufa happens. Guess in the unison, I'll send you the link so that you don't have to worry about it. Look at the Sikh Lawyers Association Canada doing a Kadi Ninda letter and posting it on. Yeah, you think these things are done in isolation? They are not coordinating with each other. Yeah, if people think this is not done in coordination, then I don't know. Then I am Iron Man. I don't know. I guess what else am I supposed to tell people? They are doing this in coordination. The entire report, media watch report. You think वो गोरे को पता है गोदी मीडिया क्या होता है? Let's get real, यार. They are being fed these lines by people who lean to a certain ideology that write these reports and push it out there. You know how I end up finding out about all these things? फिर भी थोड़े भले गोरे हैं यहाँ पे जो मुझे छुपके से बता देते हैं कि भाई ये हो रहा है देख अंदर, ये हो रहा है अंदर, ये हो रहा है अंदर. लिबरल और कंजर्वेटिव, एनडीपी वाले नहीं बताते, मगर लिबरल कंजर्वेटिव में मुझे अंदर से बता देते, देख भाई ये होने वाला है, देख भाई ये हो रहा है. It's so obvious. But yes, I know what I've said might hurt a lot of Hindu Canadians over here, but I'm sorry, y'all are spineless.
When you say Khalistan, what do you mean? Have you spoken to them? What is their idea of Khalistan? Because, like you yourself said, there are no takers for Khalistan as far as India is concerned. What we are seeing right now is a nexus between gangsters and people probably sitting in Canada, some in US and elsewhere in Europe, funding this entire criminal network, this syndicate, which is doing. And this is not just crime. This is also related to drugs and other things. So, what is this idea of Khalistan that you hear of when you talk about Canada? Because since you have interacted with them, you've had to, you've had a brush with them.
See, now you're expecting this is like, expecting a low IQ person to write a PhD thesis. That's a very unfair expectation from the Khalistanis over here. They are the classic, what we used to call growing up, my Londa Gironda from Hero Honda movement. So, that's all you can produce from them. And if you go, first of all, they can't even agree on a flag. Matlab, yeah, map. Vakhre vakhre flag, vakhre vakhre map. The only thing common in all their maps is they don't believe in a Khalistan in Pakistan. That's all they agree on.
Is there
Some of
Vakri currency also?
yes, वखरे वखरे फ्लैग ते वखरी वखरी करेंसी ते सारा कुछ वखरा है. इको ही चीज कर देने. पाकिस्तान दे विच नहीं बनाना सी खालिस्तान. बस that's the only thing they agree on. And it's they think हम लोग, मतलब मेरे को कई बार लगता है कि मतलब मैं क्या कल पैदा हुआ था क्या, मतलब तुम क्या कर रहे हो. So some of their maps, if you notice, they will go all the way up to Nanded sahib, right, Maharashtra. अच्छा, महाराष्ट्र भी ये लोग ले लेंगे, शिवाजी महाराज भी का भी एरिया ले लेंगे. देन सम से ना ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇ वी विल वर्क इन हरियाणा, पंजाब ਤੇ ਹਿਮਾਚਲ, ਉਧਰ ਹੀ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਅੱਛਾ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਸਮ ਵਿਲ ਸੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਪੰਜਾਬ, ਹਰਿयाणा भी नहीं लेना है ਤੇ ਹਿਮਾਚਲ भी नहीं लेना है. it is, I mean, what do I talk to them? Listen, it is now, there used to be, and another obsession in India, ये तो पाकिस्तान से funded है, I'm not denying that. But
That's what
Indians
the
need,
agencies and that's what the
yeah,
police
but
investigation cases have
they need
claimed.
to
ISI
upgrade their
connection,
software.
that's what we keep hearing.
Is there a ISI connection? For sure. Is this a Pakistani movement? For sure. But India needs to update its software. Now these people have enough money through their drug peddling, human trafficking, and all sorts of nonsense to fund it themselves over here. They have a robust crime syndicate that is funding. It is a self-funding. I know 4 incidents of illegal migration into America. One of the biggest money churners for them is human trafficking here. I met people personally in California last year when I was going to a restaurant. मैं खाना खा रहा सी, and this guy comes, बात शुरू हो गई पंजाबी में. तो मैंने बोला पक्के पक्के हो, you know what I mean? I'm saying पक्के हो गए हो तुसी? बोलता ना भाई साहब.
For our viewers, he means, have you got citizenship? Yes.
Yeah. So he's like, नहीं भाई साहब पक्का नहीं होया. अच्छा किन्ने पैसे दिते सी? 50 लाख रुपए. मैं बोला मतलब 50 lakh. He is given 50 lakh rupees to come to here in America. और कम की करता पे वेटरी. मैंने बोला यार तो मतलब पंजाब छोड़ के क्यों आए तुम लोग?
ਉਹ ਤੇ ਬਸ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਉਹ ਦੇਖ ਲਿੱਤਾ ਸੀ ਇੰਸਟਾਗ੍ਰਾਮ 'ਚ ਇੰਨੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ है and they actually buy this bollocks ये अच्छा फिर मैंने बात की तो फिर आए कैसे ये भी तो समझाओ बोलते ਉਹ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਆ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਜਥੇ ਦੇ 'ਚ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਓ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਆਣ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ so what they are saying is they join a religious pilgrimage tour समझ लो बोल दिया ढोली है ढोल
Hmm.
बजाने वाला या
Hmm.
वो खड़ताले बजाने वाला what I'm saying right and
Yeah.
they just go into America illegally ऐसे so brazen is the Khalistan human trafficking movement you don't even need to do some research Instagram पे जाओ open ऐसे ऐसे वीडियोस निकाल रहे क्रॉसिंग द बॉर्डर वॉकिंग अक्रॉस द बॉर्डर एंड प्लेइंग पंजाबी म्यूजिक most of the time Sidhu Moosewala it is unbelievable how brazen it is just ask yourself 50,000 to $100,000 every time a lot of these people think these people want to come to America but Canada no इनका अल्टीमेट गोल अमेरिका है कनाडा में कोई रहना नहीं चाहता nobody wants to live here this is like you're doing a lap and this is a pit stop
Like a
yeah
transit point.
yeah that's it this is just a pit stop मैं यहाँ पे साल 2 साल रहूंगा और मैं अपना जैक लगाऊंगा अमेरिका जाने को और अमेरिका किथे जाना है कैलिफोर्निया जाना है सीधे फ्रेजनो जाना है फ्रेजनो and this entire thing the Khalistani Gurdwara is involved and that's why they need placements in every agency of Canada
Yeah,
not
that's what I was
America.
in fact coming to next, because in your article also you've made this point that how the Khalistanis have exploited the Canadian system by uh, having positions in all the key agencies. If you could explain that a little for our viewers.
So, the placement happens in every government office. Believe me, wherever there are Indian majority areas, there are police plants. I think our Honorable High Commissioner was not revealing a lot because of obvious reasons, because he did not want the Canadian side, I guess, to know how much we know as
Hmm.
far as India is concerned. But I can tell you with some certainty कि पुलिस में भी हैं, बॉर्डर एजेंसी में भी हैं, इमिग्रेशन ऑफिस में भी हैं, हर जगह हैं. It is, in a very funny way, they are like Parabrahman. They are everywhere. It's like हर जगह उनके आशीर्वाद हैं. You have to see it to believe it.
In 2001 I had come here to study myself I studied I went back in 2002 that's it मेरा काम हो गया मैं वहां पे चले गया फिर chalo got married to a Canadian we used to come back and forth I was living it was only due to a personal tragedy that I had to I never talk about it and I'll never talk about it that I decided to come over here and that's why I shift my life 6 months here 6 months in India but then I was like I used to see a Brampton that was completely empty in 2001 and 2 and now there are 80 diploma mills in Brampton do you think these diploma mills are giving skills to Indian origin students? I mean, let's get real. These are frauds and scams to create bakras. वो वीडियो आता है जी ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੜੀ ਬੜੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਚੰਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਾਸ ਕਰੋ ਉਹ ਭਾਈ ਇੱਕ तो you're in an English speaking country why are you making videos in Punjabi because they know who are they making the music when that video came out I had told some of my friends over here the Canadians I was like now mark my words this is what's going to happen it's going to be picked up by SGPC in India should look after international students that angle will be taken by SGPC Amritsar
Second, some random politicians in Punjab and random politicians in India, they are not so random. If we dig enough, we will know what the connection is. They will start saying, hoi, 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 these students. And it's so convenient now that Justin Trudeau, he's all anti-immigration. So I always say how deep the infiltration is. There was this motion passed, I think it was M44 or something, by a Liberal MP, Randeep Sarai. It was passed unanimously by the entire Canadian. Remember, even the Conservatives were on it to convert temporary workers into permanent. इनको काम करने दो. So last year when I had come, believe me, everywhere I go, every Tim Hortons, I only find Indian students. It led to a massive backlash.
Hmm.
Massive backlash. And listen, I'm completely with the average Canadian. I am with the average Canadian. I might be an Indian passport holder who still lives in India half of the year, but this is ridiculous what was happening. The backlash happens. They reduce the work hours to 25 or 20 hours then. Guess what? Half of them disappear from Tim Hortons. Then now it's reduced even more. Guess what? Now you don't see them. So where did they all go? Now they are protesting. And there were there was a protest in Prince Edward Island. The biggest protest happening is in Brampton right now. And these are Naujawan Students Network or something of that sort. We have support of 100 organizations. You think these people are not well organized and they're not being supported by, and the fronts are amazing. The fronts are amazing. And now Justin Trudeau has shut down the entire immigration because he's losing so much, because immigration now has like become a top 3 topic in Canada right now as far
Yeah.
as the Canadian elections are concerned. So now he's like, nah, 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 hune nahi lane log ki. Nah, all of you sit back. But hang on, what about these people who are already here? There are almost 1 million of them. Now imagine they want, अभी यार देखो सिंपल है, मैंने भी अगर 50 लाख 30 लाख खर्चा किया तो यार अब तो खर्चा कर लिया, अब तो वसूलूंगा. What do you think is going to be happening now? The exploitation happens like this. Now the Khalistani will be like, इधर आई जरा, एक काम कर, वो consulate ਦੇ बाहर जाके भारत ਦਾ झंडा जला दी. बस, just burn the Indian flag, photo ले ली, take the photo, then find हमारे evergreen Simranjeet Singh मान साहब, letter writing expert. He has written more letters than my wife must have, or me. We must have had no, we must not have had that many rotis as many letters he has written. You know, इतने प्रताड़ित है लोग उधर भारत में कि वो लेटर ही लिखी जाते ने. और फिर बाद में ओपन ही इंटरव्यू में पीटीसी पंजाबी या जिसको भी बोल रहे थे, सानू भी ते लंगर चलाना पैंदा है. It's so brazen, the shamelessness. You have to admire the say. See, which is why when I am here, no, I'm in awe of the Khalistanis. It's amazing the shamelessness with which they work, and all of this is absolutely at the behest of the Canadian Liberal and NDP party. Absolutely at the behest. If anybody thinks that this is not happening, and Justin Trudeau is such a innocent little cutie pie that does not know what is happening over here, it's ridiculous. Everybody knows what's happening. I'm telling you, कुछ मत करो. आप है ना, सिर्फ है ना एक अजीब सा लेटर लिखो लिबरल पार्टी को यहाँ पे, और देखो 1 घंटे में कैसे लीक हो जाएगा अगर वो खालिस्तान का. It's beautiful. What is happening is they're creating vote banks because they know these people have now got a control over at least 30 ridings. 30 ridings is a lot. Just think about it. The British Columbia elections happened this time, right? There are 10 ridings of people of Indian origins. It is called India of British Columbia. Sari का जो region है ना, पूरा हमारे देसी लोगों से भरा हुआ है. The Conservatives, believe it or not, swept 7 of those ridings. That's how the anti-liberal sentiment is, or the NDP sentiment is. And the 3 ridings where the Conservatives did not win were actually where they did bad candidate selection, listening to the Khalistanis. They
So
lost those.
how do you read the next election now?
If Trudeau stays, I think by all means, the Conservatives are coming back to power. But see, he's cutting interest rates. And he's stopping immigration. So
Yeah.
if you cut interest rates, stop immigration, right? So the overall economic reality will improve, whether we like it or not. Things will, will become cheaper in Canada. The housing crisis may reduce because we don't have as many people coming in right now. I mean, you guys did a report. I remember that 80 to 90% of immigration offices have shut down. I'm going by what you guys have reported in the print. So if that is the case, the fresh, batch of students is not coming from Punjab anymore. और कोई तो आते नहीं थे इधर, पंजाब, हरियाणा and then गुजरात. अभी गुजरात में भी बंद होने शुरू हो गए हैं. So if that is the case, then these things are going to stabilize now. And if
Right.
that is the case, will the pressure on Trudeau be as much as it's... If the elections were held right now, Pierre Poilievre would win, most likely.
Right.
From the polling data, that's what we look. But that doesn't mean anything changes for India. Let me be very clear. As far
Yeah.
as the Indo-Canadian relationship is concerned, this is a uniparty.
Yeah.
This is a uniparty because I've taken names. I don't hide. Tim Uppal, go check his relations. Go check his relations. He's tweeted it himself. It's not like I have done some, great investigative journalism. I just did a Google search and I know it is all available on his Twitter timeline.
No, in fact,
Then
hmm.
go
Yeah,
ahead,
please.
go ahead.
No, please go ahead. Yeah.
Then you have Jasraj Halan. Check Jasraj Halan sweets. अच्छा एक हमारा अर्पण खन्ना है नाम का हिंदू. Everybody calls him Khalistani Khanna over here.
Oh,
It's very funny. Yeah, yeah. He may not be a Khalistani inside his heart, but he owes it to them. This is how intimidation works. So वो
but
भी वही करता है.
as far as India Canada relations are concerned, they're not getting any better. We see every now and then something comes up. Recently, as we spoke about it, the expulsion of the diplomats from both sides. So, how do you see this improving? What India really needs to do, what Canada really needs to do, where is it going, what is the way ahead? And also, of course, you speak about what India needs to do to ensure that the people who are staying there for their safety, what needs to be done? So, I mean, these are like three questions clubbed into one.
First question, I'll deal with the Indian side first, then the
Yeah.
Canadian side. The Indian side should first start that any Indian that is seen promoting Khalistan. See, whether there exists in India or not is not the question. Anybody outside the shores of India, irrespective of their religiosity, if you are sympathetic to Khalistan, you are an active threat to the Indian sovereignty. You cannot enter India. Give them what they want. They want asylum over here. Give them what they want. Second, all your properties, all your properties in India, because you're actively supporting a terror movement, it is a terrorist movement. I mean, Gurpatwan Singh Pannu saying, ਸਿੱਖੋਂ yeah, 19 ਨਵੰਬਰ ਤੱਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਭਾਰਤ ਦੀ Air India 'ਚ fly ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ or something he had said. So
Yeah.
this is an active threat to Indians. Well, if you are part of a movement that is an active threat to Indians flying, what I've lost count now, we have had 100 hoaxes
Yeah,
as far
more
as
than that. More than that.
more than that, So if that is the case, okay, ठीक है. Every time a plane is halting, it costs a few lakh or a crore, right? Every
Yeah.
time we halt a plane. So it's as simple as that. पैसा तो किधर से वसूल करना पड़ेगा. तो भाई इन लोगों की प्रॉपर्टी ले लो. ले लो ना इनको खालिस्तान बनाना है, यहाँ बना लो, हम वहां अपना हिंदुस्तान बना लेते हैं तुम्हारे घर में. 2 मिनट में ये लाइन पे आ जाएंगे. 2 मिनट में लाइन पे आएंगे. दूसरा, ओसीआई कैंसिल करो. लास्ट ईयर आई थिंक भारत सरकार ने आई थिंक अराउंड 200-250 ओसीआई कैंसिल किए थे. ओसीआई कैंसिल करने पड़ेंगे. प्रॉपर्टियां इनकी कॉन्फिस्केट करो. यू आर एक्टिवली
Which NIA has been doing in most of the cases that are being
अमृतपाल की
reported.
की है या अमृतपाल के परिवार वालों की है. टेल मी वन मोर फैमिली जिनकी की है. एक एक मेरे को आप बता दो. अमृतपाल की. यार ये तो क्या हो गया. अमृतपाल और उसकी फैमिली कितनी है? 50 लोग. 50 लोग है ना. सी दीज पीपल हु आर
नहीं, वो
लाइंग ओवर.
बलविंदर सिंह संधू वाले केस में एक्यूज्ड की भी करी थी. जी.
हाँ, उसकी करिए. उसकी
जी.
करिए.
जी.
ठीक है. वो तो मतलब एक्चुअल जो है, ये आप ये करो. वी कैन स्टार्ट एट दिस बेसलाइन लेवल. वी हैव टू. सेकंड, एनी म्यूजिक आर्टिस्ट, बिकॉज दिस इज द बिगेस्ट ब्लैक मनी को वाइट करने वाला. दिस इज देयर पंजाबी ईस्ट कोस्ट वेस्ट कोस्ट वॉर, which most people are not able to understand ki why was Niger fighting all these people. This is because there are music labels now that are Khalistani. I mean you have studied Punjabi music. I have studied Punjabi music, and the kind of rubbish that is written in Punjabi. One more thing, I have to use this. In the two talks I was there, which songs of Moosewala they consistently played outside. They never played 295. Guess which songs they played of Moosewala? They were only playing two songs all the time: SYL and Punjab. Now ask yourself, anybody who knows Punjabi, you know why they were playing it. So it's so, even in the case of Moosewala, na, they play only two songs. It's so well oiled. So now, any musical artist, I don't care. If you are sympathetic to anything that is separatist, even for a whiff, I don't care. Don't come and perform in India. I was very happy when Shubh was not allowed to perform in Mumbai. Very good. गा इधर गाने. गाना कनेडा विच गाने. जिन्ने गाने गाने गा. जा. बड़ा सबसे बड़ा मार्केट तो तुम्हारा इंडिया है. आने ही नहीं दो इनको. मेक श्योर इनके म्यूजिक को हिट्स नहीं मिले इंडिया में. कितने लोग वीपीएन लगा के गाना सुनेंगे? सुन लो. जो करना है करो. These artists that have Canadian passports should not be allowed to come to India. Hit them where it hurts the most. And the third thing is, this is where the Conservative Party comes in. So this is why Canadians function with India in a forked tongue. So you notice all the ना खालिस्तान के साथ जो ओए मेरा बीबा पुत्र वो जस्टिन ट्रूडो करेगा. But there is no, the Canadian government doesn't care is because India keeps trading with them.
Yeah.
अब trade, क्योंकि we don't have a formal trade deal, right? Because we're not signing the trade deal for obvious reasons with Canada. Now, still trade goes on. Has trade stopped? No. So now check the governments. कौन सी गवर्नमेंट है सस्कैचुआन में? आप चेक कर लो. कौन सी गवर्नमेंट है अल्बर्टा में? आप चेक कर लो. कौन सी गवर्नमेंट है हर उस प्रांत में जहां पे हमारे साथ ऑन्टेरियो में? आप चेक करो. Business delegations keep coming at a province level. So the premier, Doug Ford of Ontario, will reach out to officials in India. He'll be like, hey, man, we want to send some representatives to India. Let Ontario sign a business deal. And they'll work very conveniently through different chambers of commerce. And they'll go there. Same with Saskatchewan. Same with the coal briquette industry. That is one of the biggest exports from Canada to India. India imports a lot of coal briquette from Canada. It's very simple. You just have to stop trade with them. The moment you stop trade with these three provinces, this is where the Conservatives are conveniently not doing anything. See, when it was Prime Minister Harper, it was a different thing. Prime Minister Harper was very categorical. I don't know how many of you remember because this is like 10 years ago. Abhi to Harper is long gone. But Harper had a rule. I'm not going to go to Khalistani Gurdwaras. I'm not going to go to extremist places of religious, of any religion for that matter, even Hinduism. If they promote extremism, I'm not going to go there. Harper had a very clear line. I remember, I think it was in 2009 or something. I don't remember the exact year. Harper had come to India, and in India, he had category said he used the K word, Khalistan, and he said, "We will not support this." Can India demand the Conservatives to go back to the Harper line? That if you go back to the Harper line, Alberta, Daniela Smith, Doug Ford in Ontario, and I forgot the name of the premier of Saskatchewan right now. Can these three premiers go back to the Harper era line? Then we'll trade with you. You do this, the Canadians will listen because they like to do business with India. As far as the Canadian side is concerned, I think there is no hope from the Liberals and NDP. I say this with full responsibility. As far as the Liberals and NDP are concerned, I mean, I don't know what Justin Trudeau sees in this entire thing. I seriously don't understand, but he is what he is. He's a piece of work. Like seriously, if you just drive 100 kilometers away from Toronto, the GTA area, I mean, you will see F Trudeau signs all over Canada. I'm not even saying this. Bumper stickers, billboards everywhere. You just have to drive 100 kilometers away where the GTA starts to melt away. You just have to cross London, Ontario, which is like 150 kilometers, and really you just in a different country altogether. Even in the British Columbia elections, NDP has a minority government. They got one more seat compared to the Conservatives, who literally formed a few weeks ago. This is, they just formed the party and they came one shy or two shy of the majority in the parliament. And the NDP basically won certain pockets of cities. The entire province of British Columbia, when you see the electoral map, it's all blue. And then there are spots of orange, which are liberal. And then there is a blue in the urban center. Lo and behold, all the minorities stay there. So even the minorities hate the NDP now in British Columbia. So as far as the Conservative Party is concerned, that's the only play community. And that's where the Indian community over here can come into use. I think they have to go and talk to the political system over here that I can give you stories. मैं नाम नहीं दे सकता, अगेन सोर्सेस, बट 19 अक्टूबर को यहाँ पे हर साल होता है, 40 साल से हो रहा है मैनिटोबा में, विनिपेग में. देयर इज अ दिवाली मेला दैट हैपेंड. Members of the government from different layers of the government come. So usually how things happen over here is you play the Canadian national anthem first because it's Canada, and then you play the national anthem of the respective community that is over there, whether it's the Iranian community, जो भी है, हर community का ऐसे ही होता है. This is the first time that the Indian national anthem was not played, and the national flag was removed. Now you should be thinking कि Indian origin folks क्या कर रहे थे उधर, उनको शर्म नहीं आती. But there you go, spineless Hindus. That's the whole point. But I got calls from, absolutely disturb members of the crowd because of the podcast, right? So you have some people who know me and they are
Hmm.
everywhere now. So they called me. They're like, "Bhai, ye hua hai," and I even shared it on the podcast. So these people now need to start pressurizing. They can try with the Liberal Party. I'm not saying it should be only one party, but I think as far as hope is concerned, to solve this relationship, maybe the Conservatives can solve. But if the face of Indo-Canada relations under the Conservative government is going to be Tim Uppal,
Yeah.
Jasraj Hallan, and Arpan Khanna, yeah, then it is just a whole lot of rubbish being peddled. And as we speak right now, Sukh Dhaliwal has placed a petition, the Liberal MP in the House of Commons, to reopen the Air India bombing investigation for the third time. That
Yeah.
means all the family members have to go through the torture. So yeah, this is Canada. It sounds crazy when I say all of this, but मैं क्या करूं, मैंने थोड़ा ना ये बनाया, मैं तो देख रहा हूं, मैं बता रहा हूं. But yeah, it's not easy. And as I'm saying all of this, the thought that मैं क्यों बॉदर करता हूं, मैं अपना चल जाऊं यार, रह लूं उधर बॉम्बे में, मेरे को क्या करना है, comes to my mind probably million times in a day. Like, why should I bother why am I talking for a lot that has sold their soul? But yeah, but then you say, like, no, this is the truth, you should speak the truth and you should follow the truth. But I honestly have no hope of Indo-Canadian relations being being sorted until India takes a extremely aggressive and hard stance on the
Yeah.
trade and the travel of Canadian passport holders into India, or
Right.
Khalistani adjacent folks into India. Until that is done, the Canadians are not going to move an inch, because they don't think they care. India has never flexed any muscle. They are flexing all the wrong muscles, is all I'm saying.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mehra, for joining us and for this candid, very candid conversation. You don't mince any words. I mean, I did speak to you before we started recording. Very engaging conversation about this topic, which is currently extremely important and in the news all the time. Thank you again for joining us.